Morning, folks, or afternoon at this point. It's a little before 2 o'clock, and we are driving through Montana. We're on Highway 191 headed back toward Billings. I don't know what order these videos are coming out in. I got a video where we make almost a 1,500-mile road trip from Cheyenne, Wyoming up to Havre, Montana. Get to see big equipment, the company that built the Big Bud tractors, check out the largest Big Bud tractor in the world for a few minutes, and bought some equipment. But all that'll be later. Right now we are just driving through an incredibly beautiful part of the country. We're actually in the Charles M. Russell Wildlife Reserve right now, and for those who may not be familiar, Charlie Russell was a very famous, very legendary Western artist, Western painter. If you have not seen his work, you are missing out. If it's displayed somewhere near you, go see it. If not, look it up on the internet. The man's a legend for a reason. But country like this is just pretty picturesque to start with, isn't it? We are driving a auto nature trail, quarter mile. We are not doing that, not in this. So we are not in the old reliable 7.3 Power Stroke. I rented a 2019 F-250 from Enterprise to make this trip. My pickup trucks are all over 20 years old and have more than 250,000 miles on them. I just didn't want to push them this hard. So we rented this. It's got the 6.2 gas engine in it, and overall I am super impressed with this truck. I don't know that I would recommend buying a diesel truck to anybody anymore, but we'll talk more about that in the other video if we haven't. Like I said, that video may already be out. Fergus County. But this truck, my only complaint is since we're loaded, or since I have been loaded this morning and driving through these mountains, our fuel mileage is not great. The truck says we are getting 11.6 miles to the gallon, but that feels optimistic. I don't think it's doing quite that well, but that's okay. Gas is running about 30 cents cheaper than diesel on this trip, so we'll do the actual math when we get home. All that'll be in the other video. For now, just take a look at this, man. This is beautiful. 20 miles to the next highway, 140 miles to Billings. Where we are here is a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit. Is that a house or a facility? That's a house. Another house over there. I know this GoPro on the head driving is not my typical video style, but man, this is something else. I love it out here, up here. I need to move this way. I don't want to move to Montana. I like Wyoming, but I definitely want to move back to northern Wyoming. Back when I was completely self-employed, I did a ton of work in northern Wyoming. I covered Gillette, I covered Sheridan, I'd run through the Bighorn Mountains going over to Cody, and I just absolutely fell in love with the Bighorns and with northern Wyoming, and that's where I want to be. That's where I want to go. Since my job situation kind of shifted a little bit, that territory, I don't go up there really anymore, so I need to just pack my stuff and move up there. Slide area. Rock slide or truck slide? I don't see any sheer cliff faces, so I'm going to assume this means truck slide. And nobody's trying to do that. Bump. loose gravel. Yeah, your truck's going to slide because there's loose gravel on the road. That would make sense. I'm so glad the state of Montana invested the time and energy in putting that sign there to tell us about it. That is a really crappy section of road. Why is there just this like 200 yards of terribleness in an otherwise decent highway? Oh well, whatever. 55 miles to empty. Again, something is not adding up. We either have 50 miles left or we're getting 11 miles to the gallon, but I do not believe both can be true. If we get up here to the next highway intersection and there's no gas station, I've got a 5-gallon can in the back we're going to pour in. I brought it specifically, oh yeah, that could be a rock slide area, or landslide area, I guess. That makes sense. I brought the extra fuel because anytime I'm traveling any distance across Wyoming, Montana, any of these western Rocky Mountain states in the winter, I always keep extra fuel with me no matter what I'm in, just because if you get stranded because the highway is closed, Sand Creek Wildlife Station. Man, what a place. Yeah, there's a sign where we're leaving the Charles M. Russell Wildlife Refuge. But I always carry extra fuel, not necessarily because I might run out while I'm driving, but it's very possible that the roads could get closed and you could get stuck where you are for an extended period of time. That's happened to me numerous times in my work truck. You know, I would be in Casper or Rawlins or somewhere to do a job, and the weather there would be okay, but the weather on the roads to get back home would be terrible. Or the wind would be blowing a lot of snow over the road and freezing, and they would close the interstates, and then you're stuck. I mean, you're not stuck, you just can't go that way. And if that happens when you're on the road, it's very realistic, very possible you could sit there and just have to idle your vehicle for a few hours to keep the heater running. That's actually what I did in this truck last night. We slept in the back seat back there. Got a dog bed, couple wool blankets. Not the most comfortable thing, but not bad. It got down into the single digits Fahrenheit for a temperature though, so I think we stopped around midnight. I think fuel level low, 50 miles to empty. Okay, thank you, truck. That's good to know. But we stopped around midnight. I think after, I walked Ivy and kind of, just relaxed for a minute. I think we went to bed at like 12:15, 12:30. I woke up at like 1:30 or 2, freezing to death, so I started the truck and let it idle till, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours worth, and 75 again. I'm not trying to do that. The thing about this truck that's really getting me is the engine is so quiet. That 7.3 I'm used to driving, that thing makes some noise. Between road noise coming in through the cab, which the insulation on these new trucks is so much better than the 7.3 eras. They are so much quieter just in general, combined with the fact that this gas engine doesn't have that just constant diesel clatter. It's really easy to not realize you're doing 5 miles an hour faster than you want to be. Even though I'm in a nice, fairly new, fairly low mile truck, this thing's only got 44,000, almost 45,000 miles on it. I brought all my tools and gear and everything else. Worked out well that I did, because I ended up last night leaving out of Sheridan, Wyoming. I realized, well, I don't want to give it all away, but we had to make some emergency roadside repairs on our rental truck. You'll see that in the other video if you haven't already. That's all the crap I bought. I normally normally, when I do these excursions, which I've been doing a fair few bit of recently, I normally don't show you guys what I'm hauling, because I just started this portion of what I do a couple years ago, that I just kind of started buying these. You can help stop the spread of noxious weeds. You can clean your stuff. If you take your ATVs or your horses or even your car out somewhere and it gets dirty or muddy or whatever, clean it up before you drive somewhere else. That's a big deal, especially out here in these western states. There is an invasive grass. There's numerous ones, but the one that comes to mind for me immediately is cheatgrass. It's a miserable plant. It has no redeeming qualities that I can find. It is horrible for grazing. It is nearly impossible to get rid of. If you burn it off, the seeds stay in the soil and are the first thing to regenerate, so you don't want to burn it. There's not a great spray product for it. Kind of the only way we've been able to manage it is if you catch it early, bring some livestock in the spring and graze the crap out of it when it's young, when it's still green and short and fresh. Then come in and seed behind it. Like really heavily overgraze the cheatgrass areas, because livestock will eat it when it's still young and green before it's gone to seed. But once it kind of grows up and goes to seed, there's no nutritional value. They don't want to eat it. The seeds themselves can embed into the animal's skin and into their mouth, and it's just an awful plant that is not native to, I don't believe it's native to North America at all. I want to say it's came over from Asia sometime back in the late early 1900s, but I'm going off memory from stuff that I could be a little off on my dates, is all I'm saying. Regardless, where cheatgrass might be in one part of Wyoming or one part of Montana or one part of a state, if you go out on your ATV and get it covered in mud and pick up a seed and then you haul your ATV home 400 miles, you could be bringing cheatgrass with you, and nobody wants that. You don't even realize you don't want that, but trust me, you don't want that. So do the world a favor, clean your stuff, clean your boats, clean your ATVs, clean your horses. Don't spread stuff. Wash your hands. Weren't those the days? Oh wow. Fence burned. Little, maybe not. Looked black. Our next highway turn is, I don't know. Sign said 21 miles, and the sign was a little bit ago. I feel like we should be getting close, and I'm really crossing my fingers there's going to be a gas station there. It is very easy, very possible. You can drive across Wyoming, Montana, parts of Nebraska. I'm sure parts of Colorado and Idaho and other western states are the same way. I've just seen it personally in those few. Block management area, I don't know what that is. You can drive a few hundred miles and only see one or two gas stations the whole trip. Just another reason to keep some extra fuel. Where am I going? That road's got to be getting up here someplace. 7, 8 more miles. 2 hours to Billings. So around 4:30, probably more realistic. So if I can get into Billings and unload at 4:30, that, if I got out of there by 5, that could put me into Sheridan by 7. Shoot, I could be past Sheridan by 7. I could be back to Buffalo almost. I could be home tonight. Huh. I don't know if I feel like doing that again, but at the same time, I kind of do. I'm not super enthused about the opportunity to spend 2 nights in a row sleeping in this truck. As much as I have enjoyed driving this truck, as nice of a truck as it is, it ain't much of a hotel room. Got the job done, but not preferable. I know some smart guy is going to say, Blake, why don't you just get an actual hotel room? And those cost money. I don't like spending money. Hawk. Or was that an owl? I couldn't tell. I know it would seem weird to be an owl, but the head shape kind of looked owlish. But I'm also doing 70 miles an hour going underneath the thing, so I'm not a bird expert. You know, this is being up in Havre. That's only like 20-30 miles from the Canadian border. I think that's as close as I've been to Canada since I was a little kid and our family was over in Washington State. I think we went to Puget Sound, somewhere right over there. I feel like at some point one of my parents explaining to me that if we looked we could see Canada, but other than that particular moment that's not overly well remembered, this is the closest I've been. Ian Tyson and Corb Lund are the first 2 Canadian artists that really come to mind for me. I am a huge fan of them both. Again, if you like Western music, cowboy music, that kind of thing, check them out. Ian Tyson is an absolute legend in about every sense that I can think of. And Corb Lund is an incredibly talented singer-songwriter that really, really knows how to tell a story. 34 miles. I am not convinced we are going to see a gas station in the next 34 miles. I hope we do, though. That is just... look at that view. Like, what more can you say? Look at that. This is absolutely beautiful. It could use a little more snow, but at the same time, can you imagine this in the spring when everything is nice and green and the grass is growing up and it's... what place? What a place. Junction 1 mile. Will there be a gas station at this junction? Elder Creek, that's a cattle facility. 32 miles. Do I even need this turn? I feel like I need this turn. Oh, I don't need this turn. Grass Range, Lewistown, so I'm just gonna pull over for a minute. This is a gas station, but it is very, very... I do not believe this particular establishment is currently engaged in the fuel trade. That pump has a bag on it, and that pump is diesel, which is actually a little ironic because I was thinking while I was planning out this trip. Where is a gas station? Where was that? Where am I? Is this upside down? So this, I don't understand what this means. Maybe some of you guys can tell me. This is the second sign I've seen that says, Save the Cowboy, Stop American Prairie Reserve, UPON.com, UPOM.com, something like that. I couldn't quite make out. Wow, we've done 135 miles already. UPOM.org. Billings, 120 miles. Grass Range, 22 miles. Maybe there's gas in Grass Range.